Hey Defenders, welcome back to the channel. We have some new information that has just cropped up revolving around the shooting of Renee Good by ICE officers just a couple days ago. And it's really important we cover this. And I want you just for a second, put yourself in the mind of just a regular person. You go and you take care of your family and they're involved in school and, and all kinds of extracurricular activities and sports and band. And you're worried about, putting food on the table and the cost of gas and just the increasing taxes in the state of Minnesota. And you turn on the news and you take at face value that headline or that talking head and what they say because you're so busy. And that is what happens with the average normal person where they're not as concerned about those things around them because they have so many other things that they do need to worry about. And they don't see the obfuscation and the narrative that is being crafted around them to blind them from what's happening. I want to preface first before we go any further that Renee Good, the woman that unfortunately lost her life, should never have lost her life. It was a tragic situation, and the officer was placed into a situation that was terrible, and so was she. And I wish it had turned out different, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in, and we have to deal with what has happened and what has occurred. And that's what we're going to focus on for just a moment. So do understand that I want to come at this from an angle of context, but also understanding that life is absolutely sacred, yes. Renee Good has been propped up by the media as an individual that was a good mother, that she was a poet, and her ex even came out and said, hey, she would never be an activist. And that couldn't actually be farther from the truth, that she was actually not at this scene organically. In fact, her partner or her current wife had come out and stated that it was her fault that she was there at the scenario, asked her to be there. Now, be that as it may, even if she was not there organically and she was asked to be there, it turns out that Renee Good was actually part of a leftist organization known as ICE Watch, which is attached to another group known as the Immigrant Defense Project.
This morning, new details also emerging about the driver who was killed in Minneapolis. The New York Post reports Renee Good was part of a group of activists who worked to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota. Good, who did move to the city last year, linked up with the anti-ICE activists through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first and prioritizes involving kids in political and social activism. It was through her involvement, the report goes on, in the school community that Good became involved in ICE Watch, a loose coalition of activists dedicated to disrupting ICE raids in the sanctuary city. ICE Watch and adjacent groups can also turn confrontational, with numerous instances of activists ramming agents with their cars in the past.
We pull up their website right here. The Immigrant Defense Project, what they're designed to be is an advocacy group that takes donations. They try to find lawyers and get help for illegal immigrants so they can have representation during proceedings, or they provide more information so they understand what their rights are, even if they're not citizens, okay? They don't have the same rights. And Renee was part of the ICE Watch program, which is a group that is trained to go to areas where ICE raids are happening to disrupt operations by federal law enforcement, specifically CBP and ICE and the greater DHS. And they even utilize an app that illegal immigrants and U.S. citizens can call into that will alert where raids are actively happening. And there are people that absolutely call these things in and give this information up. Heck, this is insane. I actually had a student during one of our courses earlier this week. We were doing a defensive handgun course, and he was wearing his duty belt, and he had an olive drab green shirt on, and a lady got freaked out and tried, when he was on his property, called and said oh, he's ICE, and tried to inform people that and make phone calls that hey, ICE is in the area. And he wasn't. He was just going to go to the gun range and take a class, right? So crazy stuff. That's how heated things are kind of getting. Now, personal anecdote aside on that story aside, looking at Renee Good. So ICE Watch, what they train their people to do is to be disruptive. And how they do that, you've probably seen it in the news and on X and social media, where they will have their whistles and signs, and they will disrupt and stand and block entrances to federal facilities and gates. And the big thing is they will utilize their vehicles to block travel of federal vehicles. They'll use their personal cars to do so, and they will follow ICE around as groups to harass them and to get them to stop, to trying to buy illegal immigrants time to get away, or to just stop all operations in general and get the area locked down.
Get the fuck out of here!
Out of the way. Out of the way. Get out of the way. Now!
Get the fuck back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back!
Get back!
Who's down there? What's your name?
Give me your hand!
Who's down there? What's your name?
Give him your hand!
You're such a fucking coward. No one was coming for
Yes, you fucking are.
That's why you're fucking masked up. You're fucking CQB.
Abducting people.
Pull your mask down. Show us all.
This is what they're trained to do, and Renee Good was an active member of ICE Watch, and you can even see on the app on their website, because it's integrated with the Immigrant Defense Project. You can see it right there that, yes, they track where ICE is operating in these areas. And so that places ICE in a very dangerous situation. If you've seen throughout the rest of the year, ICE has absolutely been shot at. CBP officers have been struck by bullets, and vehicles have been used to ram officers. And it's kind of a hot mess right now across the country, particularly in areas like Minneapolis and Portland, where we just had those two shootings. And leftist organizers and Antifa are absolutely boots on the ground trying to get things moving. And of course, we covered it in our last video. This is all obfuscation for the fraud happening in the state, okay? But the fraud aside, we're just looking at ICE Watch and Renee. She was absolutely there in the capacity to be a disruptor for the organization ICE Watch. Now, it did come out that her partner, even live on camera, had stated, her wife stated that she was there and she felt at fault because she told her to come down and be at that scene. Whether she was or not, she was still trained to do these things. And we knew already that several times throughout that day that ICE Watch and their group were blocking ICE operations and using their vehicles to follow them and use them to ram and hit ICE vehicles. And so this is not outside the realm of possibility that was the capacity that she was absolutely there for. It was the situation she was trained for. And that's what I wanted to draw attention to. Now, despite all that, no, I don't think she should have lost her life. However, but because of that behavior and training, she is now trained to place herself into risky situations where you have federal law enforcement that's already on edge because they have been personally targeted, shot at, hit with vehicles, and attacked. And so it's a situation of you're going to put yourself between yourself and a law enforcement officer and the prosecution of their lawful duties. I mean, if you were to look at the charges that could be attached to this, had Renee survived, and I wish she had. I mean, you're looking at felony assault, you're looking at attempted murder, you're looking at resisting arrest, obstruction of official law enforcement duties, both on Minnesota and federal level, and you're looking at not just gross misdemeanors, you're looking at several felonies in the process. She was not at this scene as a legal observer. All about the First Amendment, yes. And that's what's being reported and kind of pushed back on, like, oh, she was there exercising her First Amendment right. Well, yes, she can exercise her First Amendment right. Protesting, certainly. But protesting is not actively obstructing what that ICE was trying to do and getting in the way of federal law enforcement. That is a gross misdemeanor to a felony in both the state of Minnesota and on the federal level. And so, no, it is not the same thing. Renee Good was not there in a capacity to just peacefully protest. She was an active participant. We kind of said that in our camera video breakdown, saying as soon as she was then behind the wheel of that car and she arrived, or when she, even before that, when she got on scene and she was agitating and they were using the cars to block vehicles, you have become an active participant in the obstruction of official duties. And then trying to, and let's say for the sake of argument, she was trying to flee, because I think there are still some merits to that argument to a degree, over this, in the self-defense setting of that ICE officer that unfortunately took her life. Placing herself in that position as an active participant, whether she wanted to flee or not, intent at that point was not important. Why? Well, because ICE officers and police officers in general are not psychic. And we can't read minds and ascertain intent on what that individual wants to do. It doesn't work that way. And on top of that, between a windshield, car doors, other options to de-escalate, which would be pepper spray or tasers, it doesn't work. You can't go through those materials. In addition, talking her down wasn't going to happen either when she got behind the wheel of that vehicle. The whole situation overall is completely a mess. However, the big thing that I wanted to draw attention to is the obfuscation that legacy media is putting out and what's getting put out on X by major political activists online and politicians, was that she was an innocent individual there. And unfortunately, no, she wasn't an innocent individual there. She was an active participant in that scenario, and she was a agitator, a trained activist to disrupt these operations. That's the big thing that I wanted to get at. So anyways, like and subscribe, get in the comments section, tell us what you think down below, and let's hash it out down there, absolutely, and have a discussion. We'd love to see you guys join the channel and the community. And remember, everybody, stay prepared, not scared. God bless and good night.